Welcome to episode 4 of North of the Boards, presented by Jackpot City Casino, a hockey podcast that takes you around the NHL and all over the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm your host, David Pagnotta. My co-host is former NHLer Anthony Stewart. My partner for this episode here Thursday. We'll be back with Sean Bell here on the program. We're recording this on Monday afternoon. We'll be joined in a few minutes by former NHLer Clark MacArthur, good buddy of Stu's, here on the program. Stu, let's dive right into this. Some news to start things off, kind of right out of the gate. We're going to get to the Leafs in a little bit, but Nashville, bit of a stunner a little bit, with Barry Trotz announcing that he's going to be calling it a career. He's going to be hanging up the skates, hanging up the tie, and retiring. They're going to start looking for a new GM, maybe a president of hockey ops to come in there. What was your reaction to the news of the bit of a shakeup there in Nashville?
Yeah, a bit surprising, right? As sometimes when you shift from coaching to management, that sort of extends your shelf life, right? We've seen, Lou Lamoriello do it into his 80s, and a lot of GMs go into their 70s, right? But I think for Barry Trotz, like, he was one of the top coaches in the NHL for decades, and sometimes taking that risk as a GM, it just doesn't work out. And the one thing I could tell you as a GM, ultimately, number one, you got to win. Like, that is what you want to do. You want to draft, build, and develop a winner. But number two is self-preservation. So a lot of GMs sort of make the safe plays and sort of make the right picks just to sort of, take the heat off of them, where he went all in, right? He wanted to build a contender right away, and he was throwing a lot of money at a lot of free agents. And just, the first couple of years of doing it, it just did not work out. You saw some players struggle the last year. It went into pretty much the first half of this year before it started to, pay dividends. And they're sort of sitting now currently 4 points, 5 points out of a playoff spot. But when Trotz did come in, he did make a lot of those moves. This Nashville team was supposed to be a Stanley Cup contender, right? They had a top goaltender, top defenseman in Roman Josi, and they underachieved since then. So again, I don't think it's necessarily him falling on his sword, but there's an element of, hey, making these big moves and it not panning out. He's like, you know what? I'm out of here. Thanks for coming, type of situation.
I mean, look, 2 summers ago, over $100 million, I think $110 million worth of contracts for Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, and Brady Shea. And I remember when that happened, I was going, all right, and this team means business. They're going to be rolling. They've got Ryan O'Reilly. They've got Philip Forsberg. They got Josi, like you said. They got Saros in net. They have Evangelista and some other pieces. And it hasn't clicked until recently. And, there was a lot of talk. Do they fire Andrew Brunette as head coach and whatnot? But they held on to Bruno. And again, as you said, they're 4 or 5 points back of a playoff spot. Things have shifted, but for Trotz, 63 years old, it's not health related, so that's a good sign. He just decided this is his time. He wants to, shift things over for his life. And for the Preds, where do they go from here? There are certainly going to be candidates. One guy I'm wondering about, we know very familiar in this city, is Brendan Shanahan. Now, I don't think Shanny's going to want the GM role, but maybe they go president of the franchise, and maybe Shanny gets in the mix there. There's already some rumblings that his hat is already in the ring.
Yeah, and again, he just took a role with Hockey Canada in developing and try to sort of figure out the issues with junior hockey here in Canada and on Ontario. But again, ultimately, he's been at the NHL for how many years? I'm sure he wants to get back into it. So again, I'm going to ask you, and again, I know it's early and the news just dropped, but I'm hearing there's some rumors he might be getting back into coaching. Do you see that being the case, or you could see him maybe taking some time off to really see what his prospects are, and if he does come back, maybe in the right situation? Do you think this is the end of Trotzy, or do you think he's going to land somewhere else?
It's a tough one, because I think there would be coaching opportunities available for him down the road. If now it sounds like he's done. It sounds like this is it, and he wants to ride off into his sunset, and that's that. But look, Rick Bowness kind of did the same thing, and he was lured back to Columbus, brought back into the NHL with the Jackets. Look how well they're doing. So maybe give it a year and a bit. Maybe they, somebody looking for a head coach tries to convince him. Like, he didn't want to take the role with Nashville either. Like, even when they're contemplating changing the coach, he made it clear he doesn't want to go behind the bench, at least in that scenario. Maybe if he's away from the game for a little bit, he starts to feel that void a little bit. Maybe he wants to get back in it. But, the biggest takeaway out of this really is the fact that it's not health related. We've seen some others that have to, make those decisions because of health related issues. Bones did, and then things got better for him, which is why he's back in Columbus, or back in the NHL in Columbus. But with Trotz, we'll see. We'll see what the future is. If this is it for him, look, his legacy in Nashville is stamped. It is what it is with how he coached. He was, there forever. Now Nashville gets to go in a different direction. And, Stu, with ownership, the ownership shift there, and a new higher voice coming in, they may want to just kind of clean things up a little bit more, which is where maybe a Shanahan comes into play, brings in a new GM, and kind of goes from there. But obviously some bit of a shakeup news to start the week. So we'll see kind of where that goes. I was in Tampa. I'm in Tampa now as we're recording this. They just had the Stadium Series. And to me, goalie fight aside, because that was cool to see, but also, was it staged? Was it not? But what did you take from watching the Stadium Series? Because here inside the building and everything that was a hell of a spectacle.
Yeah, and I was a little bit skeptical at first, right? Hockey in South Florida, how is that going to happen? And, you're seeing them come in as the Tennessee, was it Volunteers or Tennessee Titans, dressed up as football players. And then you got the other guys dressed up as Samuel, Jack Adams, Jackson, what was going on? I'm like, what is going on? But it did not disappoint, right? Down 5-1, 5-2. They come back to win in a shootout. And, there was a controversy in overtime, but it was very, very entertaining. And then just the goalie fight. And again, I know you mentioned, the goalie fight aside, it was very, very entertaining. But again, to see Vasilevsky, NHL Stanley Cup veteran, a guy that has, pretty much nothing left to prove, to come down the ice to fight, Swayman, he taught him a free lesson there. Lefties are not to be messed with, right? So that was definitely entertaining. But just the atmosphere, the vibe, you see the fans just loving the spectacle of it too. And that's what it's about. It's about growing the game. So I'm not sure how they were going to pull off hockey in South Florida. And they talked about, hey, they actually had to heat up the ice because it was too cold down in Tampa as well. So
at some point,
again, I think everything came together for a perfect match and a perfect day and a perfect celebration where it has to go down as probably the top 3 or 5, winter games of all time.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was awesome to be there, to be a part of it, to see it in person was cool. It looked like optically, it looked great on television. The aesthetics of everything was cool. The way that they built out kind of the rest of the field with the different little, they had cannons, they had sand traps, they had the beach and all these little anecdotes and all these cool little items that were part of it. Tim McGraw performing it during the first intermission. Everything kind of aligned. It worked out really well. And aesthetically, again, it was fantastic. Unless something happened behind the scenes that they're not going to tell us, it looked like this whole thing went off without a hitch. And the fact that it was a meaningful game was huge. The contraption that they built over the tent that they built over the ice to keep it preserved in case of weather, in case of rain, in case it was too hot. They took that down 6 hours before puck drop, which in and of itself was a tall task. If something malfunctioned, oh boy, you're in a lot of trouble. So they got through that. The weather for this was fantastic. And you touched on it. This is about growing the game. This is a local type of event that put a local flair to it, but it was spread out nationally. You can't tell me that people in Dallas that are going to have the Stadium Series next year at AT&T, people in Winnipeg that are going to host the Heritage Classic on October 22nd, the Winter Classic in Utah and Salt Lake City. You can't tell me there's not a hype now around those games in another effort to grow the game, Stu, because of how well this one went.
Yeah. Again, there's been some talk that a lot of them have been, very, very repetitive and it's the same thing, but this was very, very unique. And I do have one bone to pick. If you're going to have someone shoot for $1 million, at least have a guy that's picked up a hockey stick before. Like what was going on? That was a summer shot. Summer there, summer there.
Yeah, it was a little rough.
Give him a football to throw or something. But But again, ultimately, it was aesthetically pleasing, and I liked the walk-ins. It was great. I wasn't sure about the outfits, but it was definitely
Yeah.
people were talking about it, right? People were talking about it, and Tim McGraw performance, right? You had Mess and PK dressed as pirates there as well too. So regardless if you loved it or hated it, you were talking about it, and it grew the game on a national scale. That's what the event was about, and they hit the mark times 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, people are already hyped up for next year's outdoor games. They're even talking about the possibility. So they have global series. The NHL has their global series, which are regular season games, usually regular season games overseas in different parts. They've been in Australia. They've been all across Europe. It's going to be in Europe next year again. And they're already talking about, I don't think it'll happen for next season, but maybe the year after, doing an outdoor or a stadium game in Europe, which would be pretty cool. And I don't know how they're going to pull it off, but they pull this one off. So they're already talking about that overseas, which would be pretty cool. And, go play where Bayern Munich plays. And, that would be huge. They got a huge stadium out there. You can do something in London if you want to go in that direction too, for Man U or wherever. There are different possibilities in Europe that they're talking about. And the success of what just happened in Tampa on Sunday, is going to go a long way towards that. But, Stu, news of Trotz, the takeaways from the outdoor game, the Stadium Series game in Tampa, should not take us away from Leaf Talk, which we'll get to in a second, but also Artemi Panarin. And he's out there, and the Rangers are trying to make that happen. There's talk of LA, there's talk of Carolina, Washington to a degree, Florida, trying to see if they can pull this off. Can he get an extension with any of these? Does he go somewhere else and try to chase a cup without an extension? He's in an interesting situation because he's really driving the bus on this scenario.
Yeah, he is, right? And again, I think this would have been done, if he's probably, 31, 32, right? So there's a little bit, makes it a little bit more difficult to do a deal, when they're talking about $50 million sort of at his age, right? 4 years, 5 years, potentially 6 years. It makes a team now really have to dig in and do some internalized thinking on if it's going to really work, right? Yes, 2 years might be phenomenal, but is there going to be a major decline? But the good thing is he's kept up his end of the bargain. He's still playing at a high level. We're not sure how much longer he can, but he is still one of the top wingers in the National Hockey League. So I think that's generating a lot of interest. As you mentioned, there's 5, 6, 7 teams that could get it done with an extension, and probably more if it was an extension. So I think he's making it a little bit more difficult, as he doesn't want to come in and do a one and done or play the rest of the year and then have to go somewhere else. He wants to move once, and he's done that, and he's earned that right to sort of make that decision. So for me, I'm interested to see who's going to do it. Is it going to be an LA? Does he want to go to San Jose? We heard some reports of Seattle potentially wanting to trade for his rights, and he nixed that as well too. So any way you dice it, like, a team is going to get a solid player for this year and the next couple. It's now, well, what's going to be the math and the numbers beyond year 2 and 3, and does that work feasible for some of these other teams?
Yeah, that's the big thing. Like, it sounds like some teams are willing to go 3 years with him. He wants 4 at around 12.5 per season. And look, he's on pace for over 90 points this season. Hasn't really been on the decline at all over the last few seasons. So you've got to imagine he can maintain this pace of play, especially if he's playing with better players. Next season, the year after that, it's just, do we get to 3 years or do we get to 4? And that's kind of where things are. Now, if you're a team like Florida, who would have to do a little bit of juggling, they haven't been afraid to give term to spread the money out. And maybe other teams follow suit. Maybe it's a 5-year deal at $9 million, where you're at 49 and you're going, okay, well, basically we're at the 50 mil that you're looking for. Maybe that's a possibility, or what have you, or 45, or excuse me, 45. So you're closer to that 50 mil. Maybe that's, some teams are willing to give that extra term with how the cap is going up. If it lowers it, and for Florida, you can lower it to that number because of no state tax. You have that benefit. In LA, you're probably going to have to go higher. I think for Panarin, it's an opportunity to chase a Stanley Cup now and moving forward. So, would I be shocked if he does a one-off to like a Colorado or Dallas? Maybe not. But like you said, his preference is move somewhere, get an extension, chase a cup. And I think Carolina offers a lot of that opportunity for him. And we know that the Canes aren't afraid to take those big swings. We'll see if they do that for a third year in a row. But we'll get more into this. We'll talk some Leafs action. We're going to dive into it a little bit as well with former Maple Leaf and Stu's former teammate, Clark MacArthur. Head to jackpotcity.ca and catch your bonus today. Play like a champ, win like a champion. Chaos or calm, Jackpot City keeps you in the action. Jackpot City has tons of slot games, massive jackpots, and bonuses that keep you going while we keep the conversation rolling. Head over to jackpotcity.ca, grab your welcome bonus, and play responsibly. Let's jump in on this now. Let me see what we got here. And as we're going to do this, we're going to chat about the Montreal Canadiens in this one. Why? Because I'm betting 60 a slot here, 60 a pull. So Jose Theodore, Montreal Canadiens, 60 is what we're throwing down here on each pull. Let's see how we do on this one. We'll keep this one going. Montreal Canadiens, Jose Theodore. We got to connect to the Habs. The Habs are a team right now as we get close to the Olympic freeze. They're looking to add a little bit up front. This has been a team that everyone's kind of looking at going, it's 2C. They got to bring in another center. But Oliver Kapanen has been absolutely fantastic in between Ivan Demidov and Uri Slavkovsky as we just pull a nice little $600 W on this one. So we'll keep that going, and I'll keep the conversation here going. The Habs, center position is key, but they've got that piece. I think what they're looking at now is help up front. If they can add some more firepower, and they're getting Line A back and some reinforcements, but if they can get another scorer to go on that top line that connects well with Suzuki and Caulfield, I could see that being a big pull for the Canadiens and something that they're going to look at, not just between now and the roster freeze ahead of the Olympics, but also afterwards going into the trade deadline. I'm going to keep this one going. We're going to keep the conversations going here on North of the Boards. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. Thanks for playing with us at Jackpot City Casino. Now let's get back to the show. We're now joined by a special guest, former NHLer Clark MacArthur here on North of the Boards. 552 games in the National Hockey League. Clark, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good to see my old line mate, Anthony Stewart here. So this will be exciting.
Yeah, long time no see. How's it going down in the good old Flow Rider these days?
Been good. Been busy. 3 kids now, so we're running around chasing, they're doing travel sports and trying to get some golf in. And not in the last few days. It's been pretty cold for South Florida in the last few days here. But we've been staying busy, watching some hockey, and life's flying by. I know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's going to happen for sure. Let's dive into some of the hockey action and some of your former teams. Buffalo's doing great things. Toronto, a bit of a slide, not looking so good. Let's start there with the Leafs. And have you had a chance to look at and catch a lot of their season so far? And how would you assess what's going on with the Leafs this season?
I've seen a few games. I don't watch as much as I used to watch, but obviously they're missing Mitch Marner, looks like.
Yeah.
I don't see there isn't a whole lot different that's changed there besides him, and they're struggling. I mean, they got a good roster and they got good players. So some years it just goes like that. You don't know what it is.
So just going back to your days with the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think the fans are probably a little bit spoiled now as your team sort of struggle. But does the media and sort of the pressure of the fans sort of affect you on a day-to-day basis there, or back in the day you just went out and played and tried to put as many points up on the board and get as many wins?
I think it can affect you, especially. I think when I got there, they had been on a skid for probably 5 years, I would say. And the first couple years I got there, it was still, they were starting to get better. And then I think the third year we made the playoffs and ended up having that, you wish we missed the playoffs because that lost the way we lost to Boston was absolutely horrendous. But, there's a lot of stories that get drummed up. There's a lot of media. There's a lot of, moving parts in Toronto. I loved it there. I enjoyed it. But they definitely can, creep into the dressing room and stories start and confidence goes away. And it's the Mecca. I mean, that's the big bubble you're playing in there.
Guys will talk about this occasionally and say, we try to stay out of the media, try not to listen to, well, now the radio, the podcasts, the get off the internet kind of thing. How much did that seep in? You touched on it a little bit, but how much did it really, get into the room, and how much did guys talk about some of the outside noise that's there, especially when you're, either struggling or going through a tough period?
Yeah, they talk about it.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I mean, today you look at your phone
Yeah.
for a text from your mom, and you're gonna see you haven't scored in 10 games, and it's the media outlets and the links to they can come after you now. You got to have tough skin for sure. And when you're making millions of dollars, and the local electrician's chirping you on his phone, he has the right to. You can't really complain about making big money, and you got to take it. It's part of the job.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're definitely good buddies. So I'll take this time to formally apologize. I just remembered, I think I high-sticked you one time and took your tooth out. So I'll apologize to that. But I think you were there also for Wafflegate, right? When I think I was with Atlanta. We were beating you guys, and then someone threw a bunch of waffles on the ice. What was the thinking there when you saw the Eagles coming off from the rafters?
It's just so random to see Eagles, Like, I was thinking some butter and some syrup here after the game. I'll just go scoop those off the ice right now. But yeah, that was a nice little marketing ploy by whoever fired those on the ice.
You've had a few instances, or there have been, at least in Toronto, with different things, getting tossed on, from whether it's that jerseys are a whole other ball game. That's a different one, and that's a sensitive one. But when stuff like that starts to happen and the fans are on you, and how do you kind of come together as a team to kind of get through that stretch and that rough patch when you're hearing it left, right, and center once it's, the puck hits the ice?
I know Toronto was going through it, maybe a little bit at the end when I was there, but I remember going to Ottawa, and the next couple years, I really started seeing jerseys flying on the ice. And I mean, that's tough to deal with. Obviously if the jerseys are going on the ice and you're getting booed, you're doing something wrong out there. So, it's a tough situation. I feel like once they flip on you too, the gates open and everyone's coming for certain players. I don't even want to mention names, but they it was time for them to leave for sure.
Right.
You had some success with the Buffalo Sabres. How great is to see them now sort of get back into the playoff picture, and just talk about the fans and just how hardworking of a city it is. And when you do have some success, you really get appreciated on the day-to-day.
Yeah, so I got a piece of that. I was playing with you in the minors. I think we were both going up and back that year a lot. And so the Drury Briere that year, I was called up. I think I played half the season maybe, but I wasn't really on the team. You're just filling in here and there. And Rochester was such a close farm team and they were pretty tight with their money back then. I'd literally just play the games. I wouldn't even practice half the time. I'd just go practice in the minors down the road and then come back up for the game. So, but it was sold out every night. I remember going up after our season ended. We were on the same team when we lost to Hamilton. I think we lost to Hamilton in the playoffs, and then we both ended up going up to our teams or whatever. But so I went and black aced in Buffalo. I'm telling you, Buffalo is one of the best sports towns. When you have a winning team or you're going there, the whole town is electric. It was incredible there. You go down Chippewa Street or the restaurants, or I mean, they've been going through hell for 15 years there, I think now.
Yeah.
And I guess I was just talking to got a couple of buddies that live down here from Buffalo, and now the rink's filled up again. Like, they start winning, they never forget and they never leave your side. So, pretty cool place to play. One of my favorite spots to play. And now, with the Bills, I'm a huge Bills fan, and Josh Allen there. And so if they can get both teams going like they are right now, it's pretty cool for Buffalo.
And when you've got that that vibe going, right? That vibe in the city, that translates to how you guys play on the ice, I would imagine. To see all that, yeah, positivity is one thing, but just to see the hype and to see all the fans just re-engaged, especially for that market, like you said, 15 years, it's been rough for that group. But when you've got the city buzzing, how much do you feed off that type of energy as a player?
You do. You can feel it. You can feel it when you're out in town or, the last 15 years, they've all had fake mustaches going to eat at
Right.
night, trying to hide like Anthony's mustache. So they, but now, you start winning again and you're going out and feeling good. It all clicks together. And, I think anytime you start winning, it's always more fun in the room and in the town. And it just is. It's what it is.
So who makes it in? Who makes it in, Toronto or Buffalo? Okay, we're going to put you on. This is going on to social media here, so you got to make your call now, and you're going to have to live by
Let's
it.
throw Ottawa. Let's throw Ottawa in the mix too.
Yeah,
all three.
Ottawa too. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to look at the standings here. You guys are putting me on the spot. I think as of right now, the way Buffalo's going, I think I would love to see nothing against Toronto or any of these. I would love to see Buffalo get in just because of the pain and suffering they've had to go through over the last 15 years. I'm pulling the standings up right now. Yeah, I'm going Buffalo for sure. They got 67 points. Toronto's 59, Ottawa's 59. I'll say Ottawa gets in too.
Oh, wow. Okay. There we go. And then the Leafs on the outside. You just want to see a little bit of chaos in one of your former cities. That's got to be it, right?
I just think that with Marner leaving, it's just a year where they're missing that big piece, and it's going to take a little time to, fill those. I mean, that's a big gap to fill with Marner, especially during the regular season. I don't think people realize the importance of guys that are consistently getting points and getting wins every year, and they're probably feeling that a little bit now.
Yeah, so just going back to your days in Atlanta, and people talk about, not necessarily being a hockey market, but any guy that I've played with, they loved living in the city. They loved sort of the restaurants and everything like that. What is your thoughts on Atlanta as a hockey market, and could you see them getting a team sooner than later?
Yeah, I'm hearing that from people that they're going to get a team in one of the suburbs there. When I was there, we lived in Buckhead. I loved it. Minus the traffic to the rink and back. Other than that, Atlanta was a great city, great restaurants, like Stu says. Weather was, especially getting closer to playoff time, the weather was great. And if they think they can do another team there and it can work. Obviously, when I played there wasn't a ton of fans. Being in downtown there, I don't know about you, Stu, but it kind of reminded me of the Florida Panthers back when we used to play Florida. They have some nights it was dressed like a seat night, and now Florida's sold out every night. And I think if Atlanta gets a team and you're successful, I think they could do the same.
That speaks to the health of the NHL, right? If we're talking about potential expansion again, they've got a couple groups trying to get a team in Atlanta. Looks like the Vernon Krause group might be ahead of everything, but the possibility of another team, be it Houston or wherever else, that's just got to show you and everybody just how successful and how healthy the league is at this point.
Yeah, it's growing. It's growing, especially down south here with Tampa having such a great team and John Cooper doing an unbelievable job there again this year. And then the Panthers, going to the finals 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
My kids are all Panthers fans, and, the awareness around here, I mean, you couldn't have got a free meatball in Fort Lauderdale for the first 20 years of that franchise, probably. Now they're it feels a lot like it's more like Canada down here as far as hockey goes. So pretty cool what's going on. In Houston, I played in the minors. I always liked Houston. I don't know if that's one of the teams, but I think that'd be a great spot for a team too.
Yeah, let's go back to the sort of the minor league conversation. And, you're seeing some of the young superstars now come in at 18, 19 years old. But, when we were coming up, you had to play in Buffchester for 2-3 years, sometimes 4 years. But, our first year, I was there, you were there. I think Palmville was there for a little bit as well, too. Yeah. Derek Roy and, all those guys, too. So you had to really go back and apply your trade and really, blossom as a player before you got the call.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Vanek played there his first year. He was the first-round pick with you our year, and, I mean, he went down there for the whole year. I think it could have been the lockout, but either way, Buffalo, those teams, they rarely ever took a first-round pick, or you had to go down and play in the minors. They had, back then, they had 35-year-old guys playing on the fourth line in the NHL. They didn't want a 20-year-old kid coming in there. They wanted you to develop your game, and there's more fighting, more physicality then. And you had these not older guys, but Adam Mayer was, I'm just thinking of guys when I was playing there, Andrew Peters, you
Yeah.
had good, like, older character guys that, to me, to this day, I think it's a mistake to not have these older guys, in there giving some life lessons, and you shouldn't have to break in at 18, 19 and be this unbelievable player and the pressure of it, and I think it's good to get a little taste of the minors or if not, at least a smaller role in the NHL. You shouldn't come in and be a leader, I don't think. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, the development works without, their skill, and then there's just the overall persona of basically a kid evolving into a man, especially at this at this level. So I agree with you. Get through that process. Go through, the stepping stones of being a true pro, and that comes with how you handle yourself away from the puck as well, which is important. For you, just talking about the league in general, and obviously, being a part of it for as many years as you had been. Road cities. Was there always one or two spots that you always look forward to every season, circled on the calendar, like, hey, we're going to New York, we're going here, we're going there?
Yeah, I like New York. I mean, MSG was always fun to play in. Chicago back in the day, I used to think was the
Yeah.
best too. The way they get pumped up before the games during the anthem, and Chicago was always a fun place. And they had Pat Kane and Taves, and they were flying around Duncan Keith. So that
Yeah.
was always a fun place to go into. And then obviously coming down to Tampa or Florida in the winter when you're in Buffalo or Toronto,
Yeah.
it's nice to get a little breather. And uh, I mean, I talked to some of the Panther guys. I mean, they have their practice rink downtown Lauderdale now.
Yeah.
And Stu, when you played there, you guys were out by the actual rink, weren't you?
Yeah, you had to live within 2 miles of the rink. If not, you get fined.
Yeah, yeah. So now they all take their golf carts to practice in the morning. They're in flip flops, and I mean, and then you're
Can you
back
imagine
to
that? Stupider driving
elbow
around
room.
town in his
Yeah.
golf cart.
Oh my God. You would add like a limo cart with like 24-inch floaters on it. Yeah. No, they have an unbelievable setup there now. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's hilarious. So, would you, again, I know we're sort of flip-flopping, going back and forth too, but going back to sort of our World Junior days, right? And you're seeing them struggle a little bit to win the gold. And back then you were a third round, fourth round pick that made the team and had a big role. Where now it's all first rounders. So, can talk about the World Junior days. And again, you're one of my good friends, but I never really asked you this. You do have a relationship, personal or family relationship, to Dion Phaneuf, right? Double Dion. And how's he doing these
Yeah.
days?
He's good. He's working he's in LA. He's working, on the marketing side for the Kings. And I think, sorry, just the whole whatever the umbrella there, the whole group is. So he's got a big role. He's at the Grammys yesterday. I get the selfies from him. So he's been pretty busy. You know what? Speaking of the World Juniors, I see your trophy there, or your jersey in the background. I actually pulled this out before this interview. I got this is my ring. I don't know if you can see it that well, but
Nice.
Ooh.
I got the World Junior ring, so I did win a ring, just nothing in pro.
Yeah.
But World Juniors was to make that team, just because there was so many. I mean, look at the Hall of Famers that are on that team. Like, for me to make that team was obviously a surprise. And we were in Winnipeg. I remember Stu tackled me on my bed in my room when we finally, because the way they used to do it, you go sit in your room and wait for the phone call. And I was rooming with Dave Bolin, who's a great player. And the phone rings. And I'm like, one of us is done. And Stu's like, I'm not answering. And I'm like, hello? And I know it's not room service. And it's like, is stuttering on the phone too. I'm like, oh my God. Like, is Dave there? I'm like, here you go. Like, awful feeling, But Boley ended up having a great career anyway. But it was to make that team and to be around like Anthony, and just the day-to-day locker room is like, you can't even describe how funny it was, especially with Stu there. I mean,
Yeah,
we
it's
had a
funny now. I was
bunch.
going through some old
Oh, it's
pictures
so
there,
fun.
Grizz. Yeah, I was going through some old pictures, like even like just sewer ball, right? And Gord Miller was the ref, and we're chirping him. We're wearing costumes, and so again, we
It
definitely
was.
had our fun for sure.
If I could do any the thing I miss the most is that stuff. Not the hockey, not just like the locker room banter and all the guys, and that's definitely the hardest stepping stone when you stop playing, I think.
Where was that? I can't remember where that when you guys played. What you I know the year, but where was the host city?
North Dakota.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't warm there.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. His dash 40 there.
Yeah. No,
Guys riding snowmobiles around.
that one's rough. Yeah. Yeah, you're not taking golf
Yeah.
carts to the rink in that one. You're taking, yeah, exactly, snowmobiles and sled dogs.
Yeah. And they had one of the best college rinks. I think that was obviously
Yeah.
one of the reasons they put it there, but that rink was incredible. When there's like marble floors, it was like state of the art at the time.
When you were playing, whether it's with you guys together at the World Juniors or in the show, did you have any responsibilities? Were you the music guy? Were you the guy that was like rounding up the crew for team dinners or stuff like that on the road? Or were there other people that were always, that you can remember in charge of some of those responsibilities?
Yeah, I didn't have a lot to do with the music or any of I mean, I was definitely one of the guys chirping in the corner though,
Right.
for sure. Like Anthony was kind of the entertainer of the group. Let's put it that way.
Right.
He was
That's
the year, like when we, especially everyone should have, I'm kissing Anthony's ass here. Everyone should have, they should have a stew on every team in the league if you want to have a good team. We played in the minors and you want to be in the NHL, but you're right there, but you're not there. And it's tough emotionally it's tough, like throughout the year. And Anthony made it so fun there. Like I mean, it was the 2 years we spent there up and down together where the stories are just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's kind of funny,
So
right?
funny.
Remember, guys would literally sometimes get together to go watch the NHL games because we had the Florida Buffalo split, and they'd actually watch the game hoping somebody would get hurt so they could get called up. And I'm like,
Totally.
I'm having a blast. I'm having a blast down here with the boys. So forget the NHL right now.
Yeah. You go up to the NHL, you're like, this isn't even fun. This is like a job now.
yeah.
I got my signing bonus. I'm good. I can live
Yeah.
like a king down here in Buffchester.
Yeah. Go to Nathaniel's for a free hot dog after every game.
Oh, that's funny. But no, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate your time. I want to just ask what you're up to now. Again, you're living in Florida, living the life right now, obviously raising 3 beautiful kids. Talk about maybe just sort of your golfing group. I'm hearing you're golfing with, some of the who's who of entertainment and sports.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's obviously, I've talked about it before, there's Brad Jordan's course, so he's out there a lot, and Kretz is down here. There's political guys to, Brett Bear's out golf, and there's just a bunch of great guys at the club. So I've been doing that, and I've been selling residential real estate for 5 years down here, just basically to friends. And so anyone in the NHL coming down here, give me a call. And then I'm my friend and I and my business partner, he runs a quantitative hedge fund. So I do like some business development stuff for him and travel around and do stuff with the fund. So
Nice.
a little bit different than playing hockey, but definitely something new and cool. And it's been going well. So
I got to imagine it helps when you're trying to close a deal and you bring a guy out for on the course and you got Michael Jordan over there and Wayne Gretzky and all these guys. Yeah.
Definitely a deal closer for sure. It's a really cool spot, and open invite anytime you guys want to come down and play it or come hang. It's definitely a fun spot.
For me, and north of the boards, we always have to tell a story. So again, we know you have a bunch of them as well too. And again, I'm the man of many nicknames too, but can you tell the listeners and the viewers sort of what the story behind what my name in your phone is for the last couple of years?
So there's just another good minor league story. Like, dude, he comes into practice one day. He's got like a grill in. He's got these big watches, chains, and So I'm like, what is going on here? He's like, there's a jeweler in town. It's called Diamond Doug's. So I put Stu in my phone as Diamond Doug, but he's like, you guys, we can go get these watches for like $600-700, but they're going to be worth $3-4 grand. So we all go over there. I'm like, and trying to make a buck at the time. I bought 4 watches, and I swear to you, on my kids, I have all 4 of them still. I couldn't even give them away. They're literally this big around. They're like, it's unreal. But yeah, so I call them Diamond Doug forever.
Way to go.
The funny thing about that was, like, we had some teammates that were spending like, $15,000-$20,000. We're there all day, and the guy's like, hey, would you like some champagne? So we're trying to make these big investments thinking that they're going to go up. And I think mine ended up breaking the last over the years too. But again, and that's where talking to some of these younger players, it's like they want to be the superstars right away. And yes, it's great, but you got to learn what it's like to be a pro, right? And you remember the player who it was, like, he literally had to call his like financial guy to get authority to spend that amount of money, right? And again, I think our good friend Stefan Meyer was another guy that made the investment. So the funny part about this, every time I played you, I'd always be going into the corner and I just hear someone yelling from behind me, the diamond, the diamond. So those are good days too. And you almost made me quit one year too.
With those sticks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Stewie had 4. This is quick. He was really going out for practice, and I was hurt or something. So I took all 4 of his sticks, and I just sawed the back of the heel.
Oh, nice.
He goes out there, takes a shot, and the thing just blows up into the sky. And he's like looking at his stick, and I'm in the crowd. Gets another one, snaps it, like gets like a third one, breaks it. He's like, he just goes, what the? He's like, I'm out of here. He skates off the ice. I'm like, oh my God, I think you might have just got him to quit.
Yeah, I remember I got stuck in like the netting. It took him like 3 days to get it down. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Not a priority.
But just a quick story on that too. That year I got called up, sent down 9 times. And do you remember we're at the big cystic fibrosis event, and it was a huge snowstorm, and they wanted to call me up. Florida wanted to call me up to meet them in Ottawa. And it's an 8-hour drive. They were going to call me up for one game and send me back. And again, we're having such a good time. I told the assistant GM, like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to make it. I denied the call up.
Denied the like, no, I'm good. This party's great tonight.
Yeah, sorry.
Totally forgot about that. That's another one right there. I mean, you got to write these all down.
So safe to say you guys had a pretty decent time down there.
Oh, we did. Yeah. We had such a good time. Our girls were friends. It was we had a lot of fun for it was a year and a half off and on. So it's some of the best memories I have in hockey for sure.
This has been a lot of fun. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us. We can keep going here, but we'll spread this out. Hopefully we can get you on again, get some more stories between you guys, and try to warm up, because hopefully the weather starts to turn a little bit down there.
Yeah, I will for sure. Thanks for having me, boys.
Hey, Clark MacArthur, here on North of the Boards. That was awesome, Stu. Let's get back to the rest of the action here. Well, Stu, that was awesome. That was a lot of fun. Clark MacArthur joined us here on North of the Boards. You guys had that nice little back and forth. It was as if you guys were back in the room.
Yeah, and that's sort of, you heard him talk about that. That's what he missed most, right? And it's not the millions of dollars he made as a player. And he was a tremendous player, had some great years for Ottawa, and very, very serviceable in Toronto with Grabowski and Kulemin when they were really, really struggling. But he missed sort of that camaraderie. And I'm telling you, just being down in the minors, and, some guys can sulk, but we made the most of our time on and off the ice. We trained together, ate together. Our girlfriends, who are now our wives, we're best friends as well, too. So again, there's some stories that went on in that dressing room, like, Randy Cunningworth was the coach, and he would just sit there and just shake his head. But we had a blast. But we improved. We learned what it was like to be a pro, right? We had to go get our own places and sign our own leases, do our own banking. So we really matured over those first couple of years. And I think it was great having a Buffalo Sabre Florida Panther split. It made it where there wasn't really too much of a rivalry, as we were different organizations. So we really were great friends.
Yeah. And it translates to this day. Those types of friendships that you create at that point, they follow you for the rest of your life, which is awesome to see. Before we wrap things up here on North of the Board, Stu, the Toronto Maple Leafs in a bit of a predicament here as they get into the Olympic break. They're listening. They're starting to listen on some of their guys and potentially sell after the Olympic break. Is that the right direction for this group? Is this, you kind of look at it because as like even Clark was saying, they didn't replace Mitch Marner, and you lose that caliber player. It's going to affect your overall performance. It's affecting them in the regular season. Do they have to look at this as a one-off and say, we've got to check a few boxes here and clean up a few things and then go big in the offseason to get us back on track? How do you view it?
Yeah, I think that's the case, and I think that's the direction that they're going to do, where they're going to punt sort of the major decisions into the offseason, right? And we saw Barry Trotz, who went all in early and often, and, there were some big issues with Nashville, excuse me. But I don't think Tree Living right now, like, is he going to fire a lot of those bullets that he has left on making some big deals and getting rid of McMahon and maybe trading an OEL or, trading some of these other guys to stock up for assets that he might not even be around to use? I don't think so. I could see him making a move to maybe improve this group, maybe get a defenseman to really sort of shore up what's going on the defensive end of the puck. They're having a hard time defending. So I think if he does sell multiple players, I could see him conceding on the season. That's conceding on the season, where that's going to have, some repercussions possibly in the offseason. So I see him going the opposite direction. I could see him making some moves to maybe improve the club that doesn't cost too much, that can help this team, because in their mind, I think they believe they can make the playoffs. 8 points out. You saw the run that the Buffalo Sabres made, and you're seeing some of these other teams make runs. I think they don't think that they're completely out of it, so I don't see them selling anything more than one piece at the deadline.
They're going to have to be playing 700-plus hockey after the Olympic break down the stretch, but there's a lot of it, and there's not a lot of time to overthink once you get into the thick of it. This has been a lot of fun once again here on North of the Boards. Make sure you subscribe to North of the Boards on YouTube. Smash that up button and leave your comments below, as we'll read them on next week's mailbag segment. You join myself and Sean Bell later on this week as well. Here on the program, Stu and I will be back next Monday and Tuesday, and make sure you as well follow us on social at North of the Boards. For Anthony Stewart, I'm Dave Pagnotta. We'll catch you next week.